dedicated to creating racial equity through education and radical reparative givings. Now, I'm wondering if radical reparative givings means cash payments. Because if it doesn't, then it really don't mean anything. It's just more programs. What it do, family? For those who was watching the live stream or the video playback of the live stream, you might have noticed that the live stream ends rather abruptly. And I'm not sure why that's been happening. I've been changing the settings in my OBS and everything else to try to make sure it wasn't happening. However, it still happened. So this video here is going to be the part 2 to the video that was cut off from yesterday, the broadcast, where we were speaking about Philadelphia and why they actually decided to run a reparations committee all of a sudden. And when we left off, the live actually ended with this article. So I'm just going to start this article over, and then I'm going to continue from there. Now, for those who don't remember what I was saying about this article here, I was talking about people who pretend to be black grassroots and start organizations that pretend to be for the advancement of the descendants of American slaves, as well as, the advancement of reparations for the descendants of American slaves, only for them to be able to get behind the scenes and dictate how things would be dispersed, as well as, how policies would be written and things like that. So my point with this whole article here was to discuss how we have people who pretend to be for us putting up big sums of money saying it's for reparations. However, we don't know what the agenda is from those people. And some of the people that's participating in this organization, we're able to see have been basically making it clear that they're against cash reparations since we started getting this popping. But I'm going to get into the article. I'm going to start over because, like I said, the live stream cut off. So I want to make sure we get the full depth of this article entirely. The campaign to win reparations for Black Americans plan to bring broader support for smaller nonprofits advancing the cause, with new philanthropic funding initiatives announced Friday at the Align Arise National Convention in Atlanta. The Decolonizing Wealth Project, an organization dedicated to creating racial equity through education and radical reparative givings, is committing $20 million over 5 years to boost campaigns for reparations across the country, along with a research collaboration with Boston University to map reparation projects. The project's founder and CEO, Edgar Villanueva, announced the plans at the Atlantic Gathering of Advocates, including the writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones, and U.S. Rep. Jamal Bowman. All people that have been stark advocates against cash reparations. All have been advocates for programs and different ways we can do reparations. It doesn't have to just be cash type people. And it's funny that the CEO and founder of the project is someone from a whole different community, Edgar Villanueva. But I digress. Let's go back here. Including the writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones, and U.S. Rep. Jamal Bowman, the Democratic congressman whose district represents part of the Bronx and Westchester County in New York. The point of all this for us is to elevate the issue and the opportunity for reparations and to resource these groups who've been doing the work. Do anybody working in the black grassroots, have you seen any funding coming into any organization that you're working with within the real black grassroots? I haven't seen a damn thing given to communities. I haven't seen a damn thing given to any one of us. So I'm kind of confused. Who decides who's been putting in the work? Because the damn show ain't the people who's been putting in the work. But I digress. Often for a little or no money. And it takes the money to win, said Villanueva in an interview. So they're already acknowledging, and that's true. It does take money to buy politicians and to buy support in certain policies. That's true. However, where are the funds going? Because if it's going to Ta-Nehisi Coates, if it's going to Representative Bowman, to Nikole Hannah-Jones, none of that stuff is going to touch the black community. It's just not. It's just not, because none of them believe in cash payment reparations. They're going to try to put together some goddamn school grant programs, put together some loan programs. Reparations shouldn't have anything to do with loans whatsoever. But let me continue. The nonprofit, which is fiscally sponsored by Ally Media Project, has not yet fully funded the commitment, but has brought in millions of dollars in unrestricted grants from the likes of the Ford Foundation and the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation in recent years. Come on. The Ford Foundation, we know, has been partaking in a lot of COINTELPRO since way back Panther days, where there was a whole bunch of rumors going around talking about Dr. Khalid Muhammad was funded by the Ford Foundation and all this other stuff. So we already know about the Ford Foundation. The John D. and Kathleen T. MacArthur Foundation. These are all foundations that literally want to dictate how your reparations will be given to you. You can't fight the tide. So the only way to beat the tide is to swim with it and to swim in front of it. So that's what they're doing. They're trying to swim in front of this so that they can then dictate how things will go. And that's why they're putting people like Ta-Nehisi Coates, Nikole Hannah-Jones, Representative Bowman in front of you. But yet the person that's spearheading the whole situation, the CEO of the situation, is a Hispanic person. That's in addition to hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations from individuals to their reparations campaign fund supporting Black and Indigenous groups. See? All of a sudden, it was for Black Americans, and now it's all of a sudden for Black and Indigenous groups. Called Liberated Capital, which the MacArthur Foundation supports. And I'm going to read, the next two paragraphs, and then we're going to move on, because I feel that the next two paragraphs kind of proves my point again. So, even before the police killing of George Floyd 3 years ago, institutions and municipalities began examining their roles in systems that oppressed Black Americans, including slavery, redlining, and gentrification. They also looked at policies impacting other communities of color. So it goes from being about Black Americans once again to indigenous groups and other communities of color. But yet we haven't seen any redress. We haven't seen any redress. So why are they bringing in communities that don't have to do with the descendants of American slaves when the descendants of American slaves should be the first community to see some type of redress, which we have not? But the article started off talking about how this is supposed to be for Black Americans, the advancement for reparations for Black Americans. However, now it's all about Black Americans, indigenous groups, and other communities of color, quote unquote, that's impacted by their policies. Let's get to this last paragraph. Last year, Harvard University pledged $100 million to atone for its extensive ties with slavery. Have anybody in the Black community seen where that money went? Has anybody in the Black community actually received any of that money at all, being a part of the descendants of American slaves? If you have not, then there's no atonement. So where did that money go? In 2021, the Minnesota-based Bush Foundation committed $100 million, which they raised through issuing emergency bonds during the pandemic to address economic inequalities in Black and Native American communities. Has anybody in the Black community, specifically in the descendants of American slave community, have you, any of you, seen any of that money? That's right there. I'm counting $200 million that's supposed to have been going to us to fight against the inequalities that we were facing. However, none of that $200 million anybody in the Black community have seen. Any of the descendants of American slaves have seen. So where is it gone? Where is it gone? Also, in 2021, the city of Evanston, Illinois, launched a program to pay $10 million to facilitate home repair or down payments for Black residents, the first of its kind in the United States. And I've already spoke about programs such as that, where you're given money, but you have to pay it back to those white folks who own those banks, which means that you're not getting any reparations. What you're doing is you're taking out a loan, which is fine. But don't call it reparations, because it is not reparations. The same thing with microloans. It is not reparations. It is not reparations. But they're doing all of this stuff because the Black community has been pulling farther and farther away from the Democratic Party. Period, point and blank. And Biden is making sure that he's addressing certain groups and certain people and ignoring us. And we're making it very clear that we're not dealing with that any further. So now Biden's cabinet is contacting certain people to say, hey, put this on the table. Make sure it's for an amount of time. Make sure that they know it's a study. And in this situation, compared to Philadelphia, they're bringing out their bootlicks to support a person who isn't even a part of our community, heading up a situation where hundreds of millions of dollars have gone in the air already. We don't know where that went. But they're trying to convince us that, oh yeah, there's getting money put behind the reparations movement now, blah, blah, blah. But they're not telling you that the people who are putting up the funding will actually dictate the agenda of how things are run with that situation. And they told you by putting those same bootlicks in your face. Let's move on to the next article. And I'm not going to read this article here. I just wanted to show you this article. You can go back and read it if you like. But I wanted to show that we've been telling everyone over the past 4 years and coming that the Democratic Party is shooting themselves in the foot. They're cutting off their nose to spite their face. And now, these same lamestream media is coming out saying the exact same thing that we've been saying in the black grassroots, that we've been saying in the new voices of black media. However, they're not saying or conceding that we are the ones who are providing this this downfall for for Joe Biden. Basically the same motherfucker. They're not admitting that at all. That we're responsible for that. But I'm going to hit this next article, and then we have one more after that, and then we're going to close this out, family. This article comes from the Wall Street Journal. And oh yeah, if you haven't done it yet, hit those like buttons. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Make sure you're a part of the community, because I spend money on these articles so that you don't have to. And we talk about these articles in the realest ways on this channel. So please make sure, if you have not done it, please like, share, comment. Let me know what you think about what's going on. You can talk as we go along, and I'll come back in and I will address those comments a little bit later. But make sure that you're engaged. Make sure that you're listening and understanding what's going on, because this is happening right in front of our faces, and they're putting it in front of our faces for a reason. The disrespect and the whole narrative of black Americans receiving reparations under another organization that has nothing to do with black people, that's just disrespectful in itself. That has nothing to do with the American descendants of slaves. The descendants of American slavery. That's disrespectful. But let's move on to this article here, because I found this article to be very interesting. This is another article pertaining to Philadelphia. When Michelle Smith voted for President Biden in 2020, she thought he would help people like her, a black mother working 2 jobs and raising 3 teenage boys in North Philadelphia. Now, she says she won't vote for him again, citing high prices, skyrocketing rent, and a feeling she's been left behind. And I want to make sure that everybody understands this. It is very easy to talk a big game when it's not the election year. But you hear a lot of people get buyer's remorse out of nowhere because they start seeing everything that we've been telling them, regardless of whether they were looking at it or not. So really, it's not coming from out of nowhere. It's coming from right where it's supposed to come from. However, it's strange to me that people have no problem getting buyer's remorse, talking stuff about that person that you actually went and voted for, but then turn right back around and get fear-mongered back into voting for that person when it comes down to the election year, because as some people would say, it's either him or the devil, or it's I have no other option, but I'm not going to do it with a smile. None of that matters. None of that matters whatsoever. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. Because if you're not willing to literally put your foot forward and say, I'm not voting regardless of how much they're trying to scare us, no matter how much they want me to vote, no matter who is the person going against Biden or whatever the situation is, whatever Democrat, I'm not going to do it, because You guys have shown me exactly what you do with my vote. And if you cannot do that, when it comes time to it, then all you doing is running your damn mouth and complaining. All you doing is running your mouth and complaining. It's buyer's remorse, but you can't do anything about it because there's no refunds on this bastard. So that's why it's important to stand on your square and make sure that they know. You got to send that message so that they know that if we ever give you the opportunity again, you better do what you're supposed to do. And you better abide in our demands because you work for us, not the other way around. Let me get back to this article. I really did think he was going to help people in my situation, said Smith, 46-year-old, who earns $12.50 an hour working as a home health aide and makes Instacart deliveries for extra money. It's like all of them talk a good game until they get elected. Exactly, Miss Smith. Because that's exactly what they do, Miss Smith, 46, with 3 teenagers, who's working 2 jobs. They talk a big game until they get elected. But the problem with Biden was this. Biden did the same thing to get elected as senator, and then turned around and showed the black community his asshole as a senator. You was his number one target when he was a senator. But he managed to get black folk to put him over the top in his election for the Senate. And if you didn't know that, I suggest you go back and look at some of the documentaries about Biden getting into office, about Biden becoming a senator. It's just as despicable as you would think it was. And for the people who know already, make sure to tell a friend. Pass it along, what we call that pay it forward. Because Biden, he already showed the children, showed us who the hell he was when he first got elected to the Senate. And every major crime bill, as he stated once before, he said to us he was proud to have his name on. And each and every one of them was targeting the descendants of American slaves. That's a fact, Jack. That is a fact. But, buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse. This is going to be the last paragraph for this article, so just bear with me. Then I'm going to show you this graph that this article actually produces. Heading into 2024, Democrats are sounding alarms about losing voters like Smith. Black voter turnout fell during the 2022 midterm elections compared with the previous midterms. And polling and interviews with voters shows growing dissatisfaction over the economy and Biden's leadership. Well, not just the economy, but the way that he's giving out our tax money to everybody else, and he refused to address any situations within the black community. That benign and neglect shit is going straight out the window. And the black community is tossing it out the window. That's us. The descendants of American slaves, baby, that's us throwing that out the window, that benign and neglect. But let's continue. I digress. Any decline with those voters could be fatal for the re-election of Biden, whose path to victory depends on building a diverse coalition of voters in 6 or so closely fought battleground states. And the truth of the matter is, that's incorrect. Biden, he literally depends on the black vote to win in any battleground state. Not the Hispanic vote, because they're swing voters. Not the freaking white vote, because they're mostly voting Republican. Not the Asian vote, because they mostly vote Republican. It's the black vote that keeps the Democrats in office in every area of government, from the federal to the state to the local to the county. That's just how that works. But of course, they don't want to admit that we're the ones sinking the damn ship. Let's move to this last article and I'll let you guys go. But first, this is the graph that's attached to the Wall Street Journal report that I just read. And if you look at it, when it comes to the House, the Republicans is literally narrowing in on that 50-50. When it comes to the Senate, the Republicans is literally narrowing in on that 50-50. When it comes to the presidency, though, there is a huge gap in between Republicans and Democrats. So there's a lot of votes up for grab. And the right policy for the black community can tip either one over. But the black community ain't here to be played with. And voting is an exchange. It isn't a gift. So, the Democrats can, continue to do what they're doing and lose and try again in 4 more years. And in that 4 years, our whole situation of trust is going to be a lot worse. So you're going to have a lot more proving to do to the black community, to the descendants of American slaves. Or you don't. And you'll just lose. Now let's hit this last article. And I'm not going to read this whole article either. I would suggest that you read this article on your own time, because you're able to see what students in South Carolina that supposedly are a part of the Democratic Youth Committee or some shit like that, you dig me? Even they are becoming more and more disaggregated from the Democratic Party, right? However, I do want to read this one paragraph real quick, and then we're going to jump out of here. 3 years after Donald Trump pulled about 8% of the black vote nationally, polling this month by the New York Times and Siena College of 6 battleground states found his support had bumped up to 22% of the black electorate, if the elections were held today. And what that means, because the vote is not what gets a president in there. People voting, the popular vote, is not what gets a president nominated. It's the electoral vote, the electoral college. And what we're seeing is more and more black folks are getting fed up excuse that bell, sorry. More and more black folks are getting fed up with Biden to the point where they're going and they're willing to give their vote, electoral or otherwise, to Donald Trump. Now, I don't suggest anyone does that unless Donald Trump is actually offering something to our community that you feel is feasible for our community. I mean, overall, reparations, if you feel like deportation is beneficial for our community at this point in time, which I truly do. If you feel like some of the policies will benefit the black community. But don't just go and jump on another plantation just because you ran away from another plantation, and then you want to spike that plantation by saying, nah, 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 boo, boo, stick your head and do. Look where I'm at now. I'm on this new plantation. I'm going to make New Massa very happy. Don't do that. As I stated, as the whole of the new black media have stated, as the whole of the black grassroots have stated, we are not Democratic, nor are we Republicans. We are black Americans, and we need to make sure that we leverage our vote for the whatever party is going to do what they're supposed to do for us. Whatever party is going to agree to our terms, whatever party is actually going to implement the policies and programs that we tell them to do. Otherwise, all you're doing is jumping from one plantation to the next like a kangaroo, and you're taking your children with you like a kangaroo. So let's make sure that we are not so moronic and so damaged in the situation that we should jump to the next plantation and think to ourselves that we are actually doing better, that we are going to have a better time on this plantation than the other plantation, because they're both plantations. And that's why I wanted to read from that article specifically. We got to get away from this situation of allowing them to give us the bare minimum to keep us on the bandwagon. The people in Philadelphia, if you go to be a part of that task force, that's absolutely fine. Make sure no one can get on that task force and make it about anybody else but you and your descendants. That's absolutely fine. But also, make sure that they know that this really means nothing if we are not given a down payment. This means nothing if this is going to take 5 to 10 years and we literally don't have 5 to 10 years to get our finances together due to the way America has deprived the black community and the way that now everything is rising. Inflation, but the black community stays in the same complacent state. We ain't having that. And if you're not voicing that, being on those committees, then you're doing your people a disservice. With that being said, family, hit the like, subscribe, the shares, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this. And like I said, with this situation, all we have to do is stand on our square because we're winning. They're just not telling you that we're winning. It's up to us to know when we're winning and losing. But we're winning. And this is good. Now, a little house cleaning on this situation. Since every time I try to go live, there's an issue for some reason, and I've been trying to fix it. I've been bringing in people to help me with the settings for OBS and all this other stuff. If you feel like you know what the problem is and why my system keeps on cutting off my lives, and not just my lives, but sometimes my videos as well, then please let me know. Email the Church of Black Power, all one word, at gmail.com. Let me know, and I would appreciate that help. But until I get this situated, for now on, we're just going to stick to the video, the video content, and we'll wait on the live content until we get the next semester going up, and I have my panel ready, because I'm going to have a panel next semester, and we're going to be actually doing video shows as well. So it's going to be like a visual broadcast that you're able to see, instead of, all the articles and all this stuff. So stay tuned, fam. Got a lot of great stuff coming up. With that being said, peace, fam.